What's going on, Axie fam? Elijah here, back with another video, and today I have one I'm very excited about. Joining me is the #1 rank Origins player in the entire world, and I'm talking about Meditate Berlin. Thanks for being on the channel.
Hey, how's it going?
Going well, man. I'm in awe. I'm very proud as a fellow guildmate to see that name up there and to see it with these three beautiful Axies, and they're toxic. They're cute, but they're toxic. I'd love to get your initial thoughts on the way this season has flowed with the metas.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, by the way. And I'm really excited how Poison is doing right now. The first two eras were not so good. They were already better than the last seasons, but this Mystic era with Paralyzing Fang is pretty good. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
I noticed that in your team, you're actually not running Gila, and a lot of Poison teams have that as a finisher, but you don't. You actually have Gravelant, which I thought was really interesting, and I noticed here there's actually none of those in the market. Could you just explain a little bit about why you made that selection?
Yeah, so a Paralyzing Fang basically gets triggered whenever you use a debuff card on your Axie. So Graveland is one of those debuff cards. Basically, Graveland or Potato Leaf or Hatsune on the tail will definitely work. Usually it is pretty good with Poison when you go a little bit more on the defensive side. So I did choose to use Graveland because I'm also running Gloomy Dice, which introduces curse cards into the opponent's team. And it's kind of a nice combination. I don't know if it's best in slot, but it's working pretty well right now. And then regarding your question on Gila, I think it's a little bit of a preference. A lot of people are running, or Poison players are running Gila with Last Stand Mech, which has 50% more damage when you're in your last stand state, which is actually really strong. What I've always, or at least the last couple of seasons, noticed is that whenever you have your turn with Gila, you basically use 2 energy on being aggressive, and you can't be as defensive in that moment. So I do prefer a playstyle where I'm just trying to survive as long as possible and basically outlast, and then the Poison will do the rest.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think it's, obviously it's working great for you. It's a really unique version and take on it that you have the Gloomy Dice. I'm not seeing that anywhere else. Before we jump into some gameplay around how you execute with this team, I wanted to ask maybe for some guidance if you were constructing a budget build, as there's a lot of people out there that might be looking to climb the ranks. I'm talking about that top 500, top 300, or maybe just top 1K finish that they're pushing for. So maybe we can search this marketplace and try to come up with a high value team that isn't going to break the bank.
Yeah, definitely. So I think a lot of people who want to get into Poison, they try to sacrifice on maybe 1 or 2 Poison cards by getting cheaper Axies. But I think the first thing you do is what you're doing right now too, a small frill and Greenthorns as the base, and then you can see where it starts, right? You start at $6 for one Axie, which doesn't mean that Axie is good. But if you're trying to focus on having 6 Poison cards and just have that as a basis, just your highest priority when you're in the game, right? The next priority would be probably a shield card or a stun. So look for a combination between a tiny turtle or any kind of shield card, anything that heals, anything that gives you shield, anything that somehow stalls the enemy. That kind of stuff is good. So you see a bunch of hotbutts here. They could work. I've actually never tried them, but other than that, I would probably go for something like a Rosebud on the Horn you saw there. You see a Scaly Spoon. I still think the Scaly Spoon horns are still pretty good as well. And then again, if you go for a tiny turtle on your mouth, that works. Any other thing that that is a shield, like a pincer, if you can find that on the market, or if you find like a Hungry Bird,
A Hungry Bird as well.
Yeah, that could work. Like anything that kind of is on the sustain side.
So if we're looking at these kind of base layer skills that we want to have, the eyes seem to be sort of the X factor here. And I know that gecko eyes are the best, but they're also going to become a bit more pricey as they're cleansing your other Axies, and there's a lot of value in that. Is a bug playable right now? Where do you think, like, what's the first thing standing out to you that you would say, hey, you know what, to start pushing up the ranks, that's a good value bet right there?
So the bug is definitely an option. You also have some flexibility with your runes there. So that one is good. You have a tricky there. So, it's definitely not the worst. And I know Gecko Eyes are better, but at least you get good potential points and you get a heal into. And you have a lot of bug runes throughout the entire season that you can always work with, right? From Vault Builder to, in Mystic era, you have your Collect and Protect if you do select that as your one Mystic rune, which you can always do anyway. After that, I would probably
switch to Yam maybe and Cottontails.
Yeah, you could do that, but Yam usually you have a problem with your tiny turtles, because when you stun and then you're kind of faced with the yam, you kind of remove the stun, or I guess it's a sleep.
So maybe let's look for a cottontail. I know those aren't going to be cheap either, but maybe with some interesting eyes, we can pick up something fairly affordable. So this might be the most expensive Axie on your budget team, but I do think it's worth it a lot for the burst of energy, the heal. All the top guys I've seen on the leaderboard have prioritized this part. So if we have the bug with the Gila as maybe like our midliner, we want this cottontail Axie somewhere.
If you go to the reptile over there, that's actually on the top left for $18, it's actually, or $19, is actually a really good deal, because you get a pincer too, which is great against AoE, and the only bad card for $18 is your eyes. Like everything else is actually great here if you kind of ignore the eyes there. But again, pincer has amazing value because you can put a charm on there that gives you 15 extra shield. So for 1 energy, you get 165 value.
Yeah, and again, it's about the price. It's about deal hunting when you're on a budget, right? And hopefully this video gives you that insight, because if you know what to look for, you're going to be way better off in snagging something that can help you push up the ranks for not too much. Like this, as Berlin said, it's 19 bucks. We've got our bug over here for 18 bucks. And then finally, we probably, what do we need? Another reptile, a dusk. I guess we have choices. What tail are we looking for at this point, since you're not a huge fan of the yam?
You can look for anything defensive. Tiny Dino, of course, works too, but anything defensive on top of that. If you have Hatsune, Potato Leaf, all of these defensive cards, you can have an entire filter. You just look through the entire parts and just click on all the things that heal, all the things that shield up, and that could always be a good option.
What about this with the cucumber slice on the eyes? I know we don't, we're missing, maybe we're missing some gecko eyes, but again, for a budget team, if you're rocking this and you get gloomy dice, then you could really be putting some serious pressure on your opponent and screwing up their hand as well, right?
Yeah, and again, you're looking at an overall team value of like just a little bit over $50, I think, and you have this together with the retain as well. You got some tech in there with your Randa, fish snack to reduce the damage a little bit. So I think that's a great choice right there.
That's awesome. Look at this team. I mean, it's out there for the taking. I want to turn things over to you, Berlin, and maybe look at a game of the pristine team that you're using to break down some more execution thoughts around when you're actually playing a match. It would be great if we just get to see the #1 team in action.
Sounds good. Let's do it. So this matchup was against AoE, and usually when I play against AoE, it's a pretty good matchup because I do have prehistoric armor, which for every single hit you heal up 10. Against AoE, what usually my strategy is, or what everyone's strategy should be, is to get rid of the largest threat, which is the Endless Anger beast right here. And I do have 2 Black Sages, which are dispelling the opponent. So I have 1 Black Sage on the front and 1 Black Sage on the mid, each on a tiny turtle.
So you can target anything basically. And here you're already getting rid of buffs.
Exactly. On top of that, I'm always focusing on my front to heal up in most cases, because in most AoE matchups, my front will survive the longest. So the more heal and shield I put into the front, the better it is for me. It's already pretty low, so you'll probably see me putting all my heals up to the front, probably also the shield. There you go. And again, there's the magic of Gravel Ant with Paralyzing Glare. You basically, introduce doubt to the opponent, and meanwhile, you can see this too with Gravel Ant. You have Fear on the front right now, so he's basically locked in there. So if he does use any attack cards on the front, he's
the gloomy dice is so gnarly with all the debuffs. Like they constantly have either fear or hex on them. It's so clutch to watch it, and brutal for them having to face it.
Yeah, and of course sometimes it's a little bit luck based, so you don't always know like if you get hex or fear. But in this case, I also have a caterpillar on my back, so I
just got rid of another 3 stacks.
I did, exactly. But he's still at high damage, right? He's at 7 stacks, so it's still a lot of damage when he goes on with his Axie. But he has fear, of course. So every time it's a confused card, so that will help me out later on. Right now it looks like he's at low health, but he's about to really kill my back here with his Winghorn. Also getting a bunch of feather daggers. So it's actually it looks like a game I might lose.
Yeah, it looks close. Yeah,
exactly. So right now I'm drawing into my tiny turtle, which I'm going to use on the mid.
Dude, this looks like there's no way you can win. Like, he's got 2 wing horns. I think he's got another cotton on the way.
Let me just pause here really quick. So my highest priority here was to stun the mid. He has Feather Dagger, so you can just get rid of the stun. But the main purpose was not to actually stun him or to put him asleep. The main purpose was to reduce the stacks, either the rage stacks or the feather stack. So you can see he uses 1 Feather Dagger, removes the stun, but at least he is at low damage. So
you got rid of all the feathers.
Exactly. All the feather damage is done. And if you look at my front with prehistoric armor, most of the damage, every single hit is going to be healing by 10. So you're going to see, even though he has a lot of cards, I'm actually pretty good on sustaining against that.
Like 23, but actually only does 13 because of the heal. And you did have a fair amount of shield in like going into this round. You're so tanky, bro. So it goes with the comfy. So now you're at 123. I don't think you still have a way to fully get the kill though.
Exactly. Looks like the back is surviving here, and I'm putting up more shield, but you saw the front Feather Dagger, it was just 10 damage, so it's basically 0 damage because I heal up by 10. So now we'll see what he draws into. Probably not something good because he has a bunch of confused cards in his deck, so that's it.
Sick. The gloomy dice coming through in the clutch rounds, the championship rounds, and he can't do anything. You're left standing with a tiny dino, not that you even need it because you've got 20 poison stacks on this poor Dawn on the back line, and that's all she wrote.
Yep. Correct.
Man, really cool team. I'm so happy that Poison is making a run right now and that you're spearheading the way, because I know that when it was bad to play Poison, you just kept playing Poison. You didn't go out and try and buy a bunch of Axies. You stayed true to what you believe in and what you enjoy playing, and now you're sitting at the top of the mountain. So Berlin, congrats on currently being ranked 1, and wishing you all the success on this final push. Any final thoughts that you have for players out there, whether they're playing Poison or not, or any last words on this video?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. Final thoughts is just that I do love Poison. I bought Poison before Origins even started. Once the cards were revealed, I tried to get Small Frill and Greenthorn's Axie. Ever since then, I've collected. And yeah, right now, Sky Mavis buffed Poison a lot with the runes and charms that were added. And yeah, whatever you like to play, you just stay on it. But whatever your play style is, whatever fits you, just do what you need to do and stick to it.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the channel, Berlin. Thanks to all the viewers for watching. Love you guys. Catch you in the next one. Peace.